Oh, that is lovely, isn't it? I think what we've got here is a depiction of the Blessed Virgin Mary as Queen of Heaven.
Absolutely.
Because do you remember the seal,
yes,
the priory seal here? That's, put the two side by side.
Oh, fantastic,
That's what we have.
Yeah, yes, that's
lovely.
really marvellous.
Really is nice. And as well in these rose tiles here, because the rose is associated with the Virgin Mary.
Yeah. What are we going to do with the dogs?
Well, the dogs are something else
so
again,
weird,
aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't sit very well with the Queen of Heaven and the rose.
Well, can you think of anything that would connect this
only
to Christianity?
in a negative way, really. When bishops visited nunneries, they sometimes criticised the prioress for having little dogs, you know, like aristocratic women did.
Yes, I suppose it's quite luxurious as well, isn't it? Something to keep you warm.
I mean, the interesting thing from the ceramicist point of view is I've had a good look at the fabric of these, the clay they're made from, and had a look at the glaze where it survived. And I'm almost completely certain that these were made in Pottersbury, just down the road. Now, the interesting thing is Pottersbury hasn't got any real history of making decorated floor tiles. And I'm just wondering if these are actually a bespoke batch that were made specifically for the nunnery.
Oh, yeah, I think they've put in a special order.
Yeah?
That means, then, that these could mean something really specific, and we just don't know what it is. No.
Some of the sense of humour.
Yeah.
The tiles would have formed a magnificent floor. But can we say anything about the buildings they came from?
Hours ago, you told me this trench was virtually done and dusted, but you're still here.
Well, it was virtually done and dusted, and it still is virtually done and dusted. There was one thing I wanted to check.
Go on.
That was this east wall of this main east range. You know, I said it was cob or timber framed. Well, I was wrong.
What is it made from?
Bent out of stone. Look at the size of that robber trench. That is for stone. You do not rob cob.
So which way would that wall have gone?
It's running this way, north-south. This is the eastern wall of the eastern range. And if you step into here, we're now in the eastern range.
Yeah.
And here in the corner, we have the western wall of the eastern range and the north wall of the south range.
If that sounds confusing, we've got both walls of the East Range, which appear to have been stone-built running up to the church, and we've also located another wall which would have been part of the Southern Range.
Come in and join me in the cloister, and we'll walk down the cloister. And if you ever had any doubts about the return of it, there it is. Goes along and turns back northwards.
Proper job.
Proper job.
So we've also got the West Range, which would have closed off the quadrangle surrounding an internal cloister. As our picture of the nunnery falls into place, Victor's finally able to gather together the exact measurements to fill in the blanks in his survey.
Size of the cloister?
Size of the cloister about...
In foot?
In foot, about 45.
45.
Are you measuring it for carpet?
900 years ago, Sewardsley Nunnery was founded 5 miles from Towchester in Northamptonshire. Its exact location has been lost for centuries, but last year a clue might have been found. The Coldclough family were burying their cat Paint Pot in their garden and discovered a large stone wall.
Poor Paint Pot. Who dug the grave? Your dad? Yeah, I thought so. But it's you, Amy, who suggested your dad get in touch with Time Team. Where exactly is Paint Pot buried? Can you come and show us?
Over here.
Just down here? Why was Paint Pot called Paint Pot?
Because he looked like he dipped his feet in a pot of paint and his nose as well.
What do you think we might find if we dig right into this area again?
Some wolves, a pond, some oysters, some bones.
I bet those nuns ate a lot of oysters, I'm sure they did.
So the wall found in Paint Pot's grave has given us a great opportunity to hunt for a lost nunnery. And with no novices in our team, we've already started to survey the lawns. But strangely, we're working on the opposite side of the garden.
Mick? Paint Pot's over there. You're barking up the wrong tree.
Oh,
I wish I hadn't said that.
I know, we're going to be looking over there, but we've got lots of interesting clues over here as well.
What?
Well, we've got this 19th century survey which shows foundations running between here and the house, but we've also got the tree roots seeming to indicate to us where there's walls as well.
Sorry, how does that work, Mick?
So, they're up against a wall, presumably, aren't they? I mean, they normally go out from the tree.
So you mean that there could be a wall just going along there?
Yeah.
I think I got something better than tree root. If we actually look at the geophysics, we've got a clear plan of a building, and that matches the old plans.
Yeah.
And it lines up perfectly with the end of the house there.
What's the alignment, Mick?
This is aligned east-west.
So it could be a church.
That's one possibility, yeah.
Oh, come on, Mick. If it is a church, within 3 hours you'll be going, oh, well, then the Grange must have been there, the cloisters are there, all done and dusted.
Normally that would be true in a sort of, you know, well-developed monastic site. But this is a nunnery, so we think it's going to be much less regular than that. But it will help if we find a big, substantial stone building here.
Where do we start?
Well, we're certainly going to have a look at the area where the cat was buried, because there's obviously a big wall across here. But we're also going to look somewhere in this area here, probably taking in the corner, and probably, if this is the church, we should be in the altar end.
Isn't it satisfying when the very first trench is slap bang in the middle of a lawn?
Yes, except there's no conifers to attack here. I'm really disappointed.
Oh. So we're using John's geophys to locate our first trench, to see whether we can pick up the walls that were uncovered in the 19th century and find out whether they could be the nunnery church. As Trench 1 gets underway, the team have begun to survey around the cat's grave to see if they can pick up the wall which the family found and maybe give us some chance of understanding the layout of the nunnery. Back in Trench 1, we've hardly scratched the surface and we've already found a wall.
Hey, what you got there?
Should be a limestone pitched wall here.
That is a big old slab of stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this, I think, is just about in the position of that wall that's marked on that antiquarian map.
Right,
because we're supposed to be getting it coming along this side of the trench to the end and then turning back to turn in that way. So that's pretty much bang on line.
Back on site, we're getting dating evidence for the occupation of the villa.
You found our villa yet, Matt?
Well, I've just pulled a bit of it out here, actually, a bit of box flue tile. So I think we found it, but it wasn't here. I think what we have here is the demolition from it, and it's sitting in this ditch here. And I've just got to the top of it, and we're already getting loads of pottery out of here.
So what kind of dates?
It's kind of early second century stuff.
So does that mean it was demolished in the early second century?
Yeah, if this demolition came from there, the top layer of it here is second century pottery mixed up with the demolition.
So Matt's finding walls that were torn down in the 2nd century.
So, Tom, does that mean that the villa itself could have been built in the 1st century?
Yeah, I think it could be late 1st century AD.
In which case, that would be what we're looking for, wouldn't it? That would make it really, really early, much earlier than anything that's ever been found around here.
Yeah, exceptional. The only other site we have nearby is one in Gloucestershire, which dates to that period, so it's an exceptional structure in the area.
All this means we know that there were people here in the Roman period by the 2nd century. But we don't know for sure there were people here when the Romans first arrived, or that they built the villa then. But we've got great evidence from the Iron Age in Phil's marquee.
Here, Phil, you getting married?
Married?
I thought you'd put this up for your reception.
Well, you're invited to the party. Yeah.
Oh, that looks nice.
That is an exceptional find. I am really, really pleased with that. What we've got is a complete red deer antler. The deer has not shed it, it's died, because that is actually part of the skull of the deer. So the head is down this end, and we'd have had all the points at that end. But you see, what they've done to it, look here, look how they've chopped through the back of the antler, and they've snapped that off. But they've also removed that tine, and if you see there's more cut marks in there where they've removed those tines.
So what does a find like that tell us about the lives of the Iron Age people who lived here?
Absolutely loads, Tony. First of all, it tells us something about their diet. They may not have been eating venison all the day, but you can bet your life on it, because the head was attached to it, probably the rest of it was they were eating venison. But also it tells you that it's so much raw material for so many other associated trades. It's raw material for the handle maker, for the knives and for the files and for the chisels. So it just gives you so much more information about their lives just by having one red deer antler.
This is really how hawks would have been carried in Tudor times.
Yes, this is the cadge, the forerunner of the Range Rover.
The cadge.
And this is where we get these wonderful sayings: to cadge a lift, and the old codger, because someone that carried the birds, if he had a few grey hairs, he'd actually be known as an old codger. So we get these lovely phrases from this frame.
Oh, Codger, got the birds with you?
I've got the birds, thank you. What are you going to do?
Well, we've only been practicing this morning, so I'm not sure it's probably the answer. We haven't tried this with the actual birds at all yet, but hopefully we'll be able to sort of fly the birds around and get them to come to the lure and fly past me, and it'll all look wonderful.
She's very alert. Yep, she knows Carenza is the person to watch already, so we'll just keep an eye on her. Keep turning to face her all the time. OK, Carenza, start swinging. She's a good distance away. Prepare to pass and pass. Well
Hey,
done!
fantastic.
Tony, if we come round the other side.
Yeah. Wow.
Good girl. What we're trying to do is keep well out of reach. OK, here she comes again. Prepare to pass, pass.
Whoa.
Well done, fantastic. OK, start swinging. We'll try and call her back over, and I think we'll try and give her her reward. OK. Now, swinging nice and fast. Get ready to throw up. And now.
Yes!
Yes. Well done.
Well done.
Was it scary?
It was very exciting.
Yeah.
It's such a split second between knowing whether it's going to work or not that you don't really have time to be scared. But that moment when I actually pulled it away fast enough and she went past was just fantastic.
You can see why it might have been so attractive to the Tudors. It's very modern, all that speed and turning. It's like motorbikes or cars.
I mean, my heart's going dum, 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 dum.
It's exhilarating, isn't it? It really is, yeah.
That's
Thrill of the chase, that's what it's all about.
And Tony was getting really grumpy. Oh, no, he said, all I got is marks and stains in the ground. I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter what stains you get in the ground, it's knowing what they mean.
Absolutely, and we've got the evidence here for a truly magnificent building.
All right, I take it back. You can tell a lot from stains in the ground. And since we know that the walls would have been covered in wattle and daub, the hall must have looked really impressive. But this isn't the only hall we think we've got on this site. The crop marks suggest there are 4 more. Yesterday we opened a trench and it looked like these are halls, which could make this a royal site. But the archaeologists aren't satisfied yet.
Look, we've done the detailed survey now, and I think what it clarifies is we don't have any entrances on the side walls of this building.
So that's not an entrance?
No, that's not. And
it's our last day. We've only got enough metres left to dig one more trench. We know we want to put it in somewhere around here, but frankly, we've had so little datable evidence so far that we want to make sure we put it in somewhere that's potentially really fruitful. The question is where? Helen, how far have we got?
Well, I think what we're just saying is that what we need to be able to see is more clarity on this end wall. I think we really need to extend the trench here to be able to give us the other corner so we can see the whole thing. The trench is just too small at the moment.
How many more metres can we dig, Mick?
Well, we've got 209 metres accounted for, so we've got 250 allowance, so about 40 square metres maximum. We're probably looking at something 6 by 6 metres or less is all we've got left.
Provided Chris agrees, of course, because Chris is our English Heritage Inspector and he's like our archaeological policeman. And he's already said today that we can't extend a trench which we wanted to extend. So we've actually got to persuade you, haven't we, Chris?
You have, but I can see the argument for this because I think we've got a very clear question about this particular building and we're not going to answer it without going a little bit further in this direction. So I think, yeah, there's a very good case for extending this trench.
So the team begin to extend the trench to uncover more of the hall, hopefully find the entrance, and construct a picture of how it was built. But we're not only interested in the Anglo-Saxon buildings, we also want to find out about the people. And luckily, we've just got our first really personal glimpse of one of them.
What have you got there, then?
Well, just found that in the spoil.
Ooh. Oh, that is fantastic.
Isn't that nice?
Yes, that is a 9th century strap end. They're a really characteristic shape with these kind of convex edges, and they do often fall off because they're on the end of a really narrow belt or strap. And 9th century, it doesn't fit in really with the date that we've been thinking for the rest of the site, which is largely 7th century. But this could simply have come from somebody walking across a field 200 years later.
So, nice find, but unfortunately, Helen thinks the strap end was just a casual loss, so it won't date our buildings. And as Matt's got to the bottom of his post hole, it's not the only date which is slightly surprising.
What's this about Roman?
Oh.
Oh, that looks Roman, doesn't it? Yeah.
So, not an Anglo-Saxon totem pole then, Paul. And heaven knows what the Romans were doing here. But over in the Grubenhaus, the Anglo-Saxons are beginning to make sense.
Is that a dog skull you found there, Faye?
Yes, it is. Here, have a look.
Is that what we'd expect?
Yeah, we think that they might be part of some kind of closure ritual, that when the building went out of use, depositing skulls, sometimes bits of animals, sometimes even bits of people, was part of the kind of ritual associated with the building going out of use, kind of ending its life in a way.
So you make an offering when the building's abandoned, in fact.
Yeah.
Right.
So the dog skull suggests that the grub hut didn't go out of use gradually, but was deliberately closed by the Anglo-Saxons, which might suggest it was demolished in order to make way for the hall.
Join Time Team on Patreon to access exclusive 3D models, masterclasses and behind-the-scenes insights.